Can you imagine living in a household where no matter how hard you try, you are constantly coerced, guilt-tripped, and made to feel unworthy? This is Mary Brown's harsh reality. She has been quietly suffering from emotional abuse in the background of Sister Wives for years. But the show doesn't go into great detail about how toxic her marriage to Cody was. Rather, it emphasizes the drama, disputes, and surface level problems, with TLC ignoring the underlying manipulation by Cody and Robyn. Ironically, we are given the impression that Cody and Robyn are simply misinterpreted and that their behavior is somehow justified. However, nobody appears to confront them about the emotional harm they have caused, especially to Mary. TLC may highlight the tears, but they conveniently ignore the covert and overt ways these two control the other wives. A toxic dynamic has developed in front of us as a result of Cody's love bombing and Robyn's guilt tripping. Why, then, are they not held accountable for the damage they have caused? This situation goes beyond simple sister-wives drama. It involves real emotional abuse, manipulation, and the profound scars that are frequently overlooked because of how the show is presented. What is the real cost of TLC continuing to protect Cody and Robyn? Keep an eye out because we are going to reveal something much more unsettling than what has been aired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Sister Wives. My name is Maria DB. Please hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave a comment with your thoughts before we begin. Do you think TLC is ignoring the more sinister facets of the dynamics within the Brown family? The self-described patriarch Cody Brown is shown on Sister Wives with his four wives, Mary, Janelle, Christine, and Robyn, all around him. But after Robyn joined the family, the attention frequently turns to Cody and Robyn. The drama has always revolved around their relationship. While the other wives, especially Mary, seem to be on the sidelines, Cody's relationship with Robyn is clear. She is his favorite and true love. TLC has been careful not to highlight how dysfunctional things really are, even though it is clear that this is not a typical polygamous family dynamic. The emotional manipulation that Cody and Robyn use as weapons is what TLC does not, or is unable to, display. Despite appearing to be the victim due to her gentle manner, Robyn contributes to the other wives' isolation, particularly that of Mary. Conversely, Cody vacillates between being the misunderstood spouse and a flagrant gaslighter. Although it is clear that he loves Robyn, TLC has chosen to overlook the way he manipulates her to control the other wives. Their emotional abuse is subtle, sneaky, and builds up over time. It's not just a string of angry arguments. Why TLC doesn't show the true impact of this is the real question we should be asking. Although polygamy is already a controversial subject, they constantly minimize the emotional toll it takes on the women who engage in it. Seldom is the harm done to their autonomy, self-worth, and mental health shown. Why, then, is the real story of emotional abuse, especially as it relates to Mary, always kept under wraps? Why does TLC downplay the severity of the suffering while emphasizing drama and conflict? Mary Brown has long been seen as the wife who just puts up with things. Mary has frequently appeared to be caught in a vicious cycle of self-sacrifice, guilt, and emotional manipulation. From Cody's overt favoritism toward Robyn to the emotional highs and lows of polygamous life. But lately, we have seen a change in her, a subtle but profound metamorphosis. Mary is learning to set boundaries, stand up for herself, and, most importantly, reject the guilt-tripping strategies that Cody and Robyn have forced on her for years. She is no longer the woman who puts up with the abuse. When Mary flatly rejected Cody's grief after a difficult family circumstance, it was a turning point in her empowerment journey. Mary had previously acted as Cody's emotional caregiver, trying to comfort him, but this time she refused to back down. She was aware of the deception. Ever the master of guilt, Cody attempted to play on Mary's emotions in the hopes that she would sympathize with him and support him. Mary, however, established a firm boundary at that precise moment and refused to give in. The problem is that both Cody and the show often characterize Mary as icy or cold when she speaks up. TLC portrays her assertiveness negatively, implying that something is wrong with her for finally deciding enough is enough, rather than appreciating it as a sign of self-respect and personal empowerment. Why is Mary presented as the antagonist when she says, "I'm not going to bear this burden any longer"? In actuality, this is the first time we've seen her take charge of her emotional health. So why is her refusal to support Cody's manipulative behavior perceived as harsh? Mary's development is a slow, agonizing process of removing layers of emotional conditioning and manipulation. It cannot be captured in a single sound bite or brief montage on a reality show. She gains a little more self-confidence every time she rejects Cody's attempts to guilt her. Regretfully, TLC has failed to recognize this expansion. They portray her as the aloof wife, the one who defies the poisonous dynamics set up by Cody and Robyn, instead of applauding her advancement. But to those who are listening carefully, it is clear that Mary is not cold. Rather, she is at last finding her voice, strength, and warmth. Let's now examine the manipulation, which is nothing less than a masterclass in emotional abuse in the case of Cody and Robyn Brown. When it comes to love bombing, Cody is an expert. He uses this tactic to draw Mary back in when he wants something from her or needs to change the situation to his advantage. It makes her feel important, wanted, and special, just long enough to regain control. We see this manipulation in action during emotional crises, like the tell-all episodes. Mary is showered with what appears to be sincere affection from Cody, who either acts as though she has been wronged or bombards her with compliments. Love bombing is best illustrated by this extreme, almost exaggerated display of affection, which is intended to perplex the target of manipulation. Cody presents a false sense of intimacy with Mary by acting as though they are the ideal couple 1 minute and being cold and contemptuous the next. This strategy, though, is fleeting. It's about exploiting Mary's feelings to regain control, not about true love. However, Cody and Robyn use other emotional strategies besides love bombing. Particularly, Robyn has a more subdued but no less pernicious role. She is the guilt queen. Robyn is adept at taking advantage of Mary's ingrained sense of duty and loyalty in order to control her. She has mastered the art of making Mary feel cold or self-centered, particularly when Mary defies Cody's demands. The family-first narrative is frequently invoked by Robyn, which plays on Mary's weaknesses. For example, Robyn doesn't think twice about using her power to control the situation when her emotions run high, especially during tense moments with Cody. By presenting herself as the victim, someone in need of care and protection, Robyn quietly suggests that Mary isn't helping the family stay together. Scenes where Robyn tries to make Mary feel alienated, as though she is the one upsetting the balance that Cody and Robyn are attempting to establish, are especially clear examples of this manipulation. The most worrisome feature: Cody and Robyn are rarely called out by TLC for this behavior. They are portrayed in the show as a happy, loving couple, but the others don't understand that. Their relationship is viewed through a soft focus lens that protects it from in-depth examination. Instead of addressing the emotional toll that Cody's actions have on the other wives, it is implied that Mary is the one causing the problems when she confronts his behavior or refuses to comply with the manipulation. Cody and Robyn are able to avoid responsibility because of the show. Viewers can see the manipulation, but the show won't hold them accountable, which is frustrating. In order to create a story that fits TLC's ideal family dynamic, The continuous gaslighting of Mary, the guilt tripping, and the emotional control are all ignored. Why aren't Cody and Robyn being called out? Why does Mary have to bear the emotional weight? The deafening silence from TLC makes us wonder, who is really to blame for this family's emotional turmoil? Let's talk about TLC for a moment because, really, what are they doing? How is it possible that the network ignores all of Cody and Robyn's blatantly toxic behavior, emotional abuse, and manipulation? TLC appears to be complicit in upholding this idyllic portrayal of the family, which conveniently avoids the harsh realities of what's actually going on behind closed doors. Take Suki, for example. Isn't it her job to pose the difficult questions? However, it appears that she only softens the blow by gently encouraging the Browns to talk about their emotions. She hardly ever explores the true problems. Where is the responsibility? Why isn't anyone challenging Cody about his wife manipulation methods, or why Robyn's strategies are so obvious but ignored? Watching it is frustrating because, as a viewer, you want to see some sort of confrontation. A moment where Cody and Robyn are held responsible for the emotional devastation they cause. Rather, the show neatly concludes by depicting them as misinterpreted or merely going through a difficult time. The network has an annoying lack of interest. TLC has the power to expose the truth and draw attention to the harm caused by emotional manipulation and polygamy. Rather, they appear to be more concerned with upholding a family-friendly image and creating drama to boost ratings. They never insist that Cody and Robyn accept accountability for their deeds. Actually, they let Cody and Robyn control the story by making themselves the victims. Suki's and the network's lack of challenging questions shows utter indifference to the harm done to Mary, Janelle, and Christine. This only makes their actions possible. It's so quiet. Why doesn't anyone take action to make them answerable? Why does the show prioritize maintaining peace over shedding light on the true problems? For the sake of ratings, it seems like the truth is being purposefully avoided. Mary has had a difficult journey in this family, and it is clear from looking at the past that she has been carrying an emotional burden for years. Mary struggled with ongoing manipulation and emotional neglect long before she set boundaries with Cody and Robyn. Let's go back to earlier seasons when the cracks first appeared. Do you recall the painful moment when Mary's discontent with her position within the family became evident? In those early episodes, it was evident how emotionally taxing it was to be in a marriage where she was no longer Cody's top priority. The fact that Mary was viewed as a supporting character in her own marriage was more significant than the obvious conflict between Cody and the other wives. Mary seemed to take a back seat, leaving Cody to deal with the emotional fallout on his own. While he was always more emotionally invested in his relationships with Robyn and the others, she was caught in a toxic dynamic that kept her stuck in a cycle of self-doubt and guilt, so it's not surprising that she was unhappy. Not to mention the notorious catfishing incident. For Mary, that was a pivotal moment. It was the ultimate betrayal. In addition to experiencing emotional difficulties in her marriage, the tabloids reported on the betrayal of trust. The affair revealed her weaknesses and the extent of her emotional neglect. Years of manipulating her emotions had made her vulnerable in that particular moment. Instead of accepting responsibility for his own part in their marriage's emotional neglect, Cody took advantage of the circumstance, manipulating the story to make Mary feel guilty. Robyn, too? She jumped right in, further alienating Mary and making her problems even more emotionally taxing. This was not an isolated incident. Mary's issues with manipulation and guilt had been simmering beneath the surface for a long time. Her attempts to speak up or establish boundaries were always either misunderstood or ignored. Her emotional journey has been one of surviving in a constantly gaslighting environment. The show never quite recognizes the significance of what Mary has gone through, though, in spite of everything. Rather, we are told that the ongoing manipulation is a normal aspect of polygamous marriage. However, it hasn't been a choice at all for Mary. Her time with the Brown family hasn't been easy, and if we look closely at the past, we can see that she has long been the victim of emotional abuse and neglect. Long before she established any boundaries, the rifts in her relationship with Cody were evident. She showed early indications of dissatisfaction with her role in the family, and to be honest, who could blame her? Mary found her role difficult from the beginning. Despite being the first wife, it was clear that Cody no longer prioritized her. Her importance appeared to wane as the family grew, and Cody focused more on his relationships with the younger wives, especially Robyn. Mary was constantly put in a position where she had to compete for love, attention, and emotional connection. It wasn't just about the love triangle. She felt more alone and ignored as a result of being ignored each time she attempted to express her displeasure or assert herself. The frustration that had grown over the years was evident in her eyes. However, the notorious catfishing incident was arguably the most significant turning point in Mary's protracted battle. Any sense of stability or trust in her marriage to Cody was destroyed by that incident. It had a devastating emotional toll on her. She was humiliated in front of the world after years of emotional neglect. Cody appeared more worried about the consequences for himself and his reputation than he did about being there to help her. Not to be overlooked is Robyn's involvement in all of this. Robyn swiftly established herself as the person who could help Mary through her emotional turmoil, leaving Mary to handle the fallout on her own. The catfishing scandal was the result of years of emotional manipulation and neglect, not just an error. However, Mary was made to feel like the antagonist in the narrative rather than getting the help she required. The entire family, not just Cody, used her battles with shame, guilt, and self-doubt as a weapon against her. Nobody really called out the toxic dynamics that were taking place, despite the fact that Mary was obviously being manipulated, as if this emotional abuse was just a normal part of growing up in a polygamous household. The show actually brushed it under the rug. Mary's story is by no means unique. Rather, it is representative of a much more widespread and extremely concerning trend of emotional and psychological abuse that polygamous women frequently experience. Although the Brown family's dynamics may appear dramatic, many women in comparable circumstances have to deal with similar realities. It's easy to ignore the serious emotional toll polygamy takes on people who are expected to share their husbands on a daily basis, both physically and emotionally, when it's presented in a way that makes it seem glamorous or tranquil. For women like Mary, it's not just about feeling ignored or neglected by their partner. It's also about the constant manipulation of their emotions, guilt trips, and the belief that everyone else's needs come before their own. Women feel alone, invisible, and unheard in polygamous households where the husband frequently has the upper hand. Consider the emotional toll of continuously vying for attention, love, and acceptance. It wears you out and damages your self-esteem over time. Mary's journey reflects the experiences of many women in polygamous systems and goes beyond her relationship with Cody. Furthermore, the psychological harm may persist for a long time. It encourages a lack of self-worth, insecurity, and the inability to set up appropriate boundaries. It is extremely difficult for any woman to thrive when the relationship's very foundation is based on guilt and emotional manipulation. The way that TLC ignores these problems is the true tragedy here. Although the network has the ability to highlight the real effects of polygamy, it keeps the story surface level and ignores the profound emotional scars that women like Mary endure. The show would stop romanticizing a lifestyle that causes so much harm to the women who are forced into it and reveal the true costs of polygamy if it truly wanted to serve its viewers. As we draw to a close, it is clear that the dynamics within the Brown family are far more poisonous and harmful than TLC is prepared to depict. Not just a side story, Cody and Robyn's emotional manipulation of Mary in particular is the agonizing reality of what happens when someone tries to control another and the network doesn't hold them responsible. Why does TLC still exalt them? Why does it enable Cody and Robyn to avoid accountability each time their actions become unacceptable? And why, rather than being praised for her empowerment, Mary, a woman who is at last setting boundaries, is still characterized as icy or frigid? Tell me what you think. Do you think TLC is purposefully hiding the truth? Why is there such a lack of discussion about the actual harm that polygamy causes, particularly to women like Mary? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below, and remember to hit the subscribe button. Like and comment if you want more frank analysis of sister wives, in-depth explorations of the toxic dynamics behind the scenes, and the truths you won't find anywhere else. What do you think? Is this family really the contented, cohesive unit that TLC presents? Or is there something much more sinister going on here?